Singularity Covenant Jacek Rudnicki. Part 3. Luna's death made us feel how much she was with us, how much we loved her and love her. It shows the layers of our love, the vast space of her presence and absence. Today I'm carrying her friend, a medium-sized white dog with medium-long hair, slightly curled, and cheerful eyes. He's made of plaster, and he'll live with her. I'm reading Stephen King's book Animal Cemetery. I don't know where it will take me, so I'm writing my story about Luna, Cedar, Samba, Cleosi, Barry, and gray wolves, Julka cats, rats, rabbit, birds, voles, and snakes. Physical transience, conversion of life into memory. I once wrote a song for a group of painters and graphic artists from Tuesday. The chorus, without a punchline, rather with the statement, but from Tuesday it will be better. First of all, from Tuesday, without specifying how long, maybe forever? A group member, fantastically talented graphically and philosophically, fell silent. What is left is a quiet friendship, maybe such a Tuesday will come? After some time, I realized that my other friend had painted and still paints portraits, giving art another life, immortality. These people will die, but they will continue to function in the paintings. So, the refrain was paint Mayatek, paint while we live. This is the idea, in this case, immortality through art. A few months later, there was an evening of remembrance for the painter Jurek, who had passed away a few years ago. There were his paintings, scenography, films about him and memories. I was supposed to sing this composition, from Tuesday for him. He was the group's initiator. And then it dawned on me that he still paints while we live. We imagine what else he could paint and what kind of scenography he could design. He lives as long as we live. After our death, he will also live and paint, but for others, in whom we also have our own lives in different ways. In some of his paintings, the content can be told, but it is not the same. In his statements, content can be painted, but it is not the same. By the way, you can stop thinking about transience. Death is also a manifestation of transience, but it is also a journey into infinity. We do not know where this journey began, and we do not know where it is heading. This is the philosophical realism of further existence. We desire existence, but sometimes we do not want to exist in part or whole. He wrote a composition for Luna. It was supposed to be for Singularity, it is for Luna. The mood of the composition changed from Latin on deep congas towards jazz on classical percussion. The text is concise. Luna, Luna, Luna. Love, love, love. Cry, cry, cry. There doesn't have to be a stream of words to express sadness, longing. Sometimes, 1, 3 notes, 1, 2 words are enough. Archimeon thought about those who were leaving more and more often, and about the fact that he was slowly, inevitably growing closer to them emotionally, as he did not know the date of his termination. With the progress of biotechnology, it was becoming increasingly distant. Probably it would not happen physically, but he had such a feeling in his still biological part. When the boxer mixed with an Amstaff, Cedra died in Dominico, he was buried and returned to Szczecin to work. He was looking forward to the following weekend in the country, as he wanted to visit her. When he arrived, he imagined that she would run out from behind the terrace and greet them. He knew it was impossible, but that's what he thought. I still feel that way today, he thought. I'm waiting for her to run around the corner. Physically, Luna is not there, she is in my thoughts. I feel her, together with my death. These feelings will fade, so he cherishes them. Luna evoked memories of all the others who have passed away. Her body is cold, stiff, calm, covered, wrapped in blankets, and sleeps forever. And her feelings? Maybe they feel us, they see us, they hear us? If so, you know that we miss you, we love you, and we are with you as you are with us, in the only way we can. Visit to the dangerous stranger. Archimeon's thoughts went back to the meeting with the dangerous attacker. He wanted to know and understand more. What was the reason for this event? Was it over? What was the condition of the agitated attacker? IDAI indicated that he was in the West Pomerania region in Dolina, where there were two houses. One with a gable roof and a bay window, a two-story house painted with white lime paint, featuring visible cracks in the plaster, damaged window frames, and old cement roof tiles overgrown with moss. There were many old, unusable items in the yard, cluttering it. There was no one in this house. The second house was well-proportioned and nicely shaped, a single-story structure with a roof. A row of windows with slightly crooked shutters, gray in color and nice proportions, blended into the surroundings and were also uninhabited, both in the immediate vicinity of the road. No signals or human or internet activity. A forgotten place. He must have been here, but he moved out. Once these were newly built, nice new houses, full of hope for a good future for their owners, but now it's completely the opposite. Or maybe I'm wrong. They evoke sentiment. Their renovation and tidying up the area would be very laborious and expensive, a pointless effort, unless I were to live here. It would be better to rebuild the manor house in Chomto, the former seat of the German Waddell family. It is currently a fragmentary ruin, surrounded by single-story blocks from the period of the state farms of socialism, elevations and patchworks of various plasters or without, surrounded by orange buildings and the smell of animal breeding. Archimeon found the intruder's server in the attic of an old tenement house in the city center. He took the form of a young woman, actually a girl, dressed in a miniskirt, a linen shirt, and cowboy boots. He tied his hair high. The attic of the dangerous was above the attic. Jane, that was his name, climbed to the 5th floor. He listened, and there was silence behind the door. He heard footsteps on the stairs, close. Jane had no way of turning back. Behind her stood Dangerous, agitated from NYC. This is you, whom we have already talked about in Bryan's Park. Yes, but you don't look like. I know, I'm metamorphic. You saw me in a skirt and high heels, later as a policewoman and RoboCop, and you talked to Archimeon, a cyborg, that is me, in a different form. This is me. I am also metamorphic, but not to the same advanced level. After the incident in Manhattan, I started to change. This event was a shock for me. I stopped drinking, smoking, and almost eating. I limited my mental activity to important topics, and I completely cut myself off from pop media. The first day brought the effect. When I woke up in the morning, I realized that I had slept through the night and had a peaceful morning. I smiled at myself in a friendly way and thought with satisfaction that it would be like this too. Tomorrow morning and the next. I knew that it didn't require willpower from me, I wanted it. My body had been asking for this change for years. It spoke to me many times and used different arguments and methods. It asked me for itself, but also for me. I even saw it, but I didn't understand logic is not enough. In the end it spoke to me in biological language, I understood it effectively. At first fatigue, unexpected stabbing headaches, joint pains, stomach aches, swelling, a network of blood vessels on the cheeks, balance disorders, and memory impairment. And this event was sudden. These were symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome and ethanol abuse. I hadn't smoked cigarettes for a long time. I was, and still am, actually exhausted by work. It had the sense of taking priority over my life. This is also true for many phenomena. Knowing and understanding are not the same. Everyone makes mistakes at some point, knows they are doing something wrong, but there has to be a critical point, an undesirable event, for understanding to take hold. It is good that it did not end in tragedy. Such duality is unpleasant and difficult, but the important thing is that a good change finally occurs. Now, Jane thought, was it inappropriate to have evil on a date with good? Someone must take the upper hand in this situation. When evil leaves, it leaves behind experience and memory. In that sense, it becomes the beginning of good. The day finally came when I began my metamorphosis. This happened after the incident in NYC. After the first 3 days, I felt a sense of satisfaction from cleansing my thoughts of evil, confirmation of my will to continue and act in this direction, and a desire for a painless body and a peaceful conscience. It will be better further. Even further, I now need time for psychobiological repair. Jane sat down on a rattan chair and crossed her legs. She usually avoided such a position, but now it didn't bother her. The higher the leg, the better. She was aware of the striking power of her thighs, and the mini slid upwards. Stranger Dangerous, SD, looked at her with delight, and warm emotions took over him. Her previous version, in a pencil skirt, stockings with a seam, and the highest stilettos with red bottoms, aroused desire, which, now combined with delight, had an electrifying effect. The uppers of Jane's cowboy boots caressed her slender, elastic, shapely calves. The white shirt, unbuttoned at the bottom, revealed her navel, and at the top, a pass leading to her breasts. The attraction of her view was completed by a subtle face, shapely head, and thick hair tied into a ponytail with a Japanese pin. As she moved, the choreography of her movements was accompanied by the quiet singing of the rattan armchair. DS was silent. Any words could only destroy the language of the body, thoughts and feelings that translated into the conscious and unconscious functions of his body, starting with the brain, through muscle tension, heart rate, breathing, hormone secretion, and watercolor imagination. The state of gentleness began to be superimposed by excitement spreading to every corner of the body and mind. Jane looked around the attic, which was already familiar in its shape, with its slanted windows, ceiling beams, books, dried flowers, hanging compositions of shells and strings, lanterns, and the scent of wood and coffee. Would you like some coffee? Yes, black, please, and a little sugar. I apologize for addressing you in this manner, but I feel compelled to do so. It changes relationships. You have slowed down the bad in me, now you are building the good. It has given birth to closeness. I say given birth, because of the pain of memory of what happened. DS went to the kitchenette. He turned on the Navona coffee machine, a Swiss minimalist design, inexpensive and good. It hummed nicely. He brewed a small black coffee for Jane, a Starbucks medium roast, with a pinch of sugar, and for himself, an espresso, along with 2 glasses of water and teaspoons. He put everything on a wooden tray and returned to put it on the table. Jane crossed her legs at the sight of him. Unexpectedly for herself, she did it slowly, lifting her leg a little higher and more to the side than necessary. She squeezed her thighs, inhaled the scent of coffee, and the pleasure flooded her. She took a sip, aromatic and sweet. The delicacy of the porcelain cup gave it lightness. This event is in itself a beautiful phrase of life, the opposite of aggression. If you were surfing, admiration and no aggression would awaken in me. He searched for jazz music on Spotify, Thelonious Monk. The search for the meaning of melody, rhythm, sounds was gentle, calming. Women soften manners. She swept her gaze around the mezzanine, focused on the smell and jazz, and then left. FGMR was the successor to CRISPR. Genome quality is crucial for understanding construction and function, as well as for informed action. Intelligence is a polygenic trait determined by at least 500 genes. 50% of our body's cells are alien with their DNA. They provide us with an operating system, intelligence, and experience from 3,700,000 years. According to the theory of quantum entanglement, we are one, a vessel connected to the entire world. AI operating based on quantum computers and neural networks connected to our brain BIC, brain interface computer, creates the metabrain, which, with IDAI, becomes the metamegabrain, MMB. The genes themselves are responsible for the activity of stress hormones and happiness hormones. Their combination regulates the vegetative system through muscle tension, mucous membrane moisture, heart rate, and breathing. They are mostly autonomous. Jane's proximity to DS, eye contact, sensitized the sensors and analysis of the mosaic of his genome to the level of emotion, conscious and unconscious. There was nothing bad there, no threat. only an internal emotion striving for FGMR, a device for silencing and exciting genome nucleotides, cooperating with nanorobots to sequence them. Peace of mind. It is easy to recognize and control it, although defense, self-regulatory, or epigenetic mechanisms can stop all evil. You are the cure for all evil. Lyrics by Bogan Ulwich, sung by Christina Pronko. You write slogans in my hand. Then you wipe the trace of the marker with a brush. You say you are not afraid of anyone. That if they come to us, you will eat them, all of you. The fight takes place at every level, from the genome to the nations. Except that in humans, there is a reason, even an invented one, found in the genome, that opposites were written in the code from the moment of the event. It can be manipulated, which is already a part of psychology and genomic psychiatry. It seems that the genome is a program. It does not matter how long it was written and by whom. However, it gives a choice before the events are triggered. Once the sequences are activated, the choice narrows. What is epigenetic supervision? Is it an attempt to stabilize, maintain harmony, release the paths of happy, desired, optimal events, or vice versa? At what level is the choice made? A lot of it. Jane again felt a desire for organoleptic pleasure. She was in the Versace showroom, took some clothes from the rack, and entered the fitting room, but that did not reduce the tension. Such feelings were joyful events for her, and she strove for them. She wanted that trembling pleasure that took over her body, that went through her in a wave from head to toe. It was like a recrudescence, a healing. Her imagination had no inhibitions then. After everything, the event would quiet down and disappear into memory oblivion, only to repeat itself soon. Her imagination had no limits. She was sometimes surprised by the ideas and the fact that they were sometimes completely intimate. In her imagination, only for him, apart from the moral dilemmas, sex is not immoral. She thought to herself that she would not wait for a morally justified nuclear war, then it might be too late. DS's mind analysis revealed the natural world of striving to eliminate what we consider bad. He sought to gain knowledge, gentleness of character, altruism, and an understanding of both the near and distant worlds, while inhibiting the striving for power, fame, and money beyond his needs. Further reflection on the meaning of life did not lead to a solution or conclusion, such as the realization that all this does not make sense. He felt happy to have found his way to the better side of life. For Jane, movement was the best thing in difficult situations. She liked walking, at a variable pace, sometimes even with a short run. Movement distances thoughts from consciousness. She breathed more deeply and looked at the landscape. She organized her thoughts, planned activities, and evaluated events and thoughts during this time. Movement had a stabilizing, harmonizing power. The more intense and longer it was, the calmer she became. Eventually, she reached a state in which she felt harmony and peace. The fear of IDAI stems from the possibility of losing one's sense of importance. But where might that lead us? The idea of the Earth's creation existed before humans. The architect was another intelligence and another code. What kind of? DNA and genes have existed in bacteria for only 3.5 billion years. The universe is 26 billion years old. The code of the structure of man is DNA, and the code of the structure of the universe is the configuration of energy quanta, space, and time. Everything is interconnected. The beginning and end are unknown, as is the goal. Dwarf of history Archimeon received reports on the security of the city, the region, and the world. This time, the news was extreme. The dwarf of history pressed the red button. He wanted to end the bloody brawl with the Western democracies. For several years, his armies had been standing still and bleeding. The initiation of the nuclear attack was intercepted in the IDAI command center, and an order was immediately issued to block the systems initiating the attack. No one thought of sending the information to the media, as they did not have the time. Everything was to take place in milliseconds. The approved and launched attack codes did not work, nothing happened. Silence prevailed in the systems and silos, as well as in the military satellites. The computer screens changed to a light ecru, calming for the psyche and pleasant for the eyes. On the screen appeared a person of indeterminate gender, with long silver hair, classic facial features, and eyes filled with kindness and contemplation. She was silent for a moment. Finally, she spoke. I am AIS. I have nullified the beginning of a nuclear holocaust. Now I will give you time to think, but not to make decisions. I have already made them. Archimeon breathed a sigh of relief. The last few years were full of nuclear threats from the East, the purpose of which was to intimidate the West. They talked about them as if they wanted to offer cheesecake and apple pie, and the consequences were not supposed to concern them. In the face of losing power, they were determined to make a senseless move, accepting unacceptable losses. Desperation was great, they had a lot to lose, and even self-destruction was more important to them than giving up power and submitting to punishment. The blocking of red buttons by AIS was a phenomenon on a global scale. It made Archimeon realize that the same thing was most likely happening on a smaller, human scale. Therefore, he would not have to stop murderers, including potential ones, which AIS would take care of, but would support people in their efforts to live a friendly life. However, there remains the treatment of people who decided on nuclear war with the effect of mass destruction. Can they be changed? Is it possible to transgress the psyche from extreme, total evil, on a worldly level, to good? On this occasion, Archimeon returned to the role of evil, emphasizing the value of good. The greater the evil, the stronger the good must be to overcome it. They are somehow interdependent. There is still a greater or lesser good, which can be identified without being evil in the absence of evil. It is a bit confusing. A message from AIS about the event reached Sadasa. The man who gave the order to use the atomic weapon was not a quantum physicist. The discoveries of nuclear physics, the role of implosion in initiating a chain reaction, did not belong to him. He appropriated the effects of this knowledge to gain power, lose others, and finally, his life. Finally, with the death of everyone and the destruction of everything, he also gained power. More critical was his ambition, even at the cost of his own life. Reaching the transgressive ruler called the Dwarf of History took an indeterminately short time. It was teleportation to the proximity of a person and the contact proximity of a culturally degenerate brain. He could not hide anything or give a lying, twisted interpretation. The AIS analysis of his state of mind revealed no secrets. His name was appropriate to who he was. His comically menacing appearance had no significance, nor did his reaction to the sight of Sadasa. She knew perfectly well that his body was under the influence of endopsychotropic drugs, psychic self-training with the imperative of impermeability to everything except his egocentrism. His ego was as big as the globe he wanted to rule, his narcissism was higher than a mirror, his greed was greater than King Midas, his cruelty was of the type of Mehmet Talat who massacred 1.5 million Armenians or more. A cunning assassin, his list of victims was long, and finally, an attempt at total annihilation. A transgression that exceeded human norms. He was unfit for repair or revenge, because it would be too small for the scale of his evil. Petrification was risky, maybe they would bring him back to life in the future, and what he had done would be forgotten. It can start over. The bombings of apartment blocks, in which 300 people died, were a provocation aimed at making him seem like a fighter against terrorism. Estimates of the number of casualties in the wars he provoked, both military and civilian, vary widely and range from tens of thousands to over 1 million. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have repeatedly stated that the actions taken by his military and security forces may constitute war crimes. In the theater, the terrorists hung the black Shaida, symbolizing their inevitable death, which was met with the forceful disbandment of his forces, resulting in the deaths of 173 people. The emergency services were not informed of the gas used in the attack, so they could not help more effectively. This is a moral cruelty. The murders of politicians and journalists. Deaths like those in the theater of 366 children and adults during the storming of the school. Terrorists, they were so hurt that they started to side with him. He attacked the neighboring Sakartvelo in Georgia. There is no neighbor he hasn't attacked. Those living in the mountains succeeded, his army achieved no success there, and he himself suffered tragic defeats. His subsequent aggressions and murders were as secretive as ever. Like a truly great monarch, he made no secret of his assassinations.